Hello, everyone. My name is Atieno Grace, and I'm here today to talk about the seven seals. Thank you so much for joining, and I hope you are getting my sound, my voice. I hope the voice is clear so that we don't miss what I'm going to talk about. Revelation chapter 6 talks about the seals, and today we are going to talk about the meaning of the seal, and we are also going to talk about some colors that we come across and the meaning of the symbols that we are going to find there. First off, I'd like to say that in ancient times, the seal was used by the kings as a symbol of their authority, jurisdiction, and it was also to seal, or rather to conceal the contents of what was being passed. So, for example, if a messenger was being sent by the king to another kingdom or to someone else or to a duke, a seal will be placed. And in those times, they used to do it by uh, pouring some candle, burning some candle on top of the letter, and then putting the rubber stamp, which has the kingdom, the name of the king, and the jurisdiction. And they used to stamp it. And when we want to talk about the seals in the Bible, we find the seal in the commandments. Commandment number 4, keep the Sabbath holy. There you will find who the owner of this earth is and who is giving the authority and to which territory. When you read the three angels' message, you see it's the earth, the heavens, the springs. So, the springs of water. So, God also has a seal. And just like the kings, there are things that are being unraveled when the seal is broken. So, these seven seals, there is going to be the breaking of seals, the first seal, the second, up to the seventh. And we are going to read the letter. We are going to read the contents of the seals. So I'm going to share with you a few of the things that I came across while I was doing this study. So, seal means, like I've said, something that conceals. And seven is a number of completeness. So we are talking about the period from AD 31 to AD 100. This is seal 1. So we are going to talk about the seals. And in this video, we are going to talk about only seal 1 and seal 2. So welcome. And I would like to just start off by saying that the number 7 means completeness. And the seals cover some scene or events of a religious character, and contain history of the church. The seven seals therefore embrace the whole of a certain class of events, reaching down to the close of probation time. We will also come across seven trumpets. The trumpets denotes a series of events which transpire contemporaneously with the events of the seals, but they are of an entirely different character. So, what is a trumpet? A trumpet is a symbol of war, hence, it denotes great political commotions during the gospel age. When the seals were opened, or rather broken, and the record was brought to light, the scenes were presented before John, the Revelator, not by the reading of description, but by a representation of what was described in the book being made to pass before his mind in living characters, in the place where the reality was to transpire, and that is the earth. So these things were living characters on earth. So this scene is being shown to John to take place before his face, and there are living characters. So what is a horse? Horse denotes God's people. We can find this in Songs of Solomon, chapter 1, verse 8, 2 Kings chapter 6. So seal 1, as I've said, takes place between the period of AD 31 to AD 100. What does white stand for? Purity. Purity of faith in that age. So during that age, there was purity of the faith. The faith had not been diluted in any way. There were nothing that had been incorporated into it, like cultures of different places. It was just pure, just like Christ had given it. So I've said that white denotes purity of faith in that age, and we can read Daniel 12, verse 10. We can also read Revelation 3, verse 4, and we can read Revelation 19, verse 11. I'm going to talk about the bow, where we shoot the arrows from. So the bow is Christ's love, which encircles the world. So we can find this in different places like Habakkuk chapter 3, verse 8. And I've said that the bow is the one that is used to shoot the arrows. So what is an arrow? An arrow is the word of God. And this is also very clear in the Bible. We are going to talk about another sign, which is the crown. So before I go to the crown, let me just take you back a bit and say that the bow represent the sweeping over of Satan's strongholds with the kingdom of Christ. So it represents the sweeping over of Satan's strongholds with the kingdom of Christ. What is a crown? Crown is a spiritual conquest. So remember, I took you back to the kingdom when I was relating the use of the seal and how we are relating it with the Bible. Remember, the Bible uses things that human beings are used to. That is why when Christ is talking about the sowing, he's talking about people who are across. So look, and then he was seeing how they were spreading the seeds. And then also he was talking about wheat and the tares. That those people used to plant wheat, so they understood what wheat is. So going back to our point, crown. Remember, I said that the king used to use a seal to denote his jurisdiction, his territory, and who he is. So also his crown also represented him. So the crown was worn on the head, just like we all know. And what does it represent in spiritual matters? It represents spiritual conquest based on Christ's victory over sin on the cross. So when Christ died for us on the cross, that is the crown. That is how he conquered sin. And that is the crown that we are talking about. A white horse and the rider who bears a bow is a fit emblem of the trumpets of the gospel in the first century of this dispensation. The work of Christ or Christianity went forth as an aggressive principle against the huge systems of error with which it had at first to contend. So during that time, the Christians, the disciples who first went out with great zeal and with great authority and with great power. And they went out to different places. Remember, during the persecution enabled these disciples of Christ, who are now more than 12 of his original disciples. The persecution spread them across different places, Asia Minor, all the way to Africa. And this spreading, as they went with the gospel. So they went here with aggressive principle, and they were true, and they were the epitome of Christianity, the example of Christianity. Just like we see them writing in the Bible, and it is an example of what we can follow. Peter writes his experience. Paul writes his experience to different places, the Corinth, Galatians, to the Romans, he writes his experience. So they went there aggressive, and nothing diluted the message of Christ. They went with it just like it had been given, just like Christ had taught them. And as pure as children, no one had been polluted by culture. All of them were just pure. That is the first seal. People are going out there and you see a white horse, and you see, we have said white is purity. Pure. No corruption, no contamination. And this contamination that we talk about is the introduction of customs and traditions and cultures, starting with the Roman culture. And then we'll find things like the Greek culture being incorporated until Christianity was diluted and people took it for granted. So, what do we learn from this? What do I learn from this? It is something that I should try and imitate, because when I read First Seal, I read how Christianity was at its best, and it motivates me to continue doing the right thing, because these people did the right thing and they were persecuted, but they never gave up. A little bit about the second seal, seal 2. Revelation chapter 6, verses 3 and 4 talks about the seal. And this period spans from AD 100 to AD 313. Here is conflict. Here is conflict. And the horse that is there is a red horse. So we have corruption in the purity of the church. Errors began to arise. The ecclesiastical power sought the alliance of the secular government and people. The climax being the conversion of Constantine in AD 323, making him the first Christian emperor. So we find that during this period is when things started coming in. Things started being polluted. The gospel, not just things, but we are talking about the spiritual matters. They started being polluted. Just like when you introduce blood into any fluid, red will take over the color. The water will be contaminated. Remember, the water signifies many people. So if this water is this blood spills on water, this water is going to be contaminated. Is this corruption, this incorporation of culture and principles from the world came into the people were going to be corrupted. And what is going to be affected the most was the spiritual. What was affected most was the spiritual aspect of the people, not just their life, but the spiritual aspect of the people. So this is the seals are just, they are talking about the spiritual degradation, beginning from where it was pure all the way to where it was corrupted, and then it will come back to now what next. So this is what we are going to talk about in seal 3, 4, 5, and 6. This video was just an introduction for you to know that about what we are going to talk about. In my previous video, I might touch a bit about the first seal and the second seal, but generally this is the general aspect of seal 1, being that the first seal takes place in a period where the gospel was still pure. And in seal 2 is the beginning of the corruption of the spiritual aspects of the people. The gospel started getting corrupted. And we have seen that in order for Constantine to be accepted, there were things that people, just like in any other place, let's say, for example, in our country here, a politician. If this politician comes and says he likes certain kind of food, we will, even if he didn't want to cook that food, we will bend a little, so at least we accommodate that one. We put it for him so that he feels good. The same way with Constantine, the time of Constantine, Emperor Constantine. For him to be a Christian, there were things that he was allowed to continue doing. things that he brought into Christianity with him during his conversion in AD 323. The emperor legislated the church called the Council of Nicaea, Nicaea, and was most prominent in the council. He was a very prominent person in the council. So he was at the top, and every other decision that he used to make, he was the one who was making this decision in the council. So we go on to say that, and was most prominent in the council. Constantine, not the gospel, had the glory of tearing down the heathen temples. So during his time, he took the glory, he took every credit for everything that was being done Christian, anything that was being done Christian, he took the glory. He took the first hand. He took he took the responsibility to decide which direction it was going. If it was going to my right, if it was going to my left, if it was to go front or back, he made the decision to decide where it was going. So we are seeing that he teared down some heathen temples, but not to the glory of God, but to his glory. The state had the glory, not the church, not the Christian church. Remember, I'm stressing because I'm trying to help you see how the seal and the corruption is. So if we look at the life of Emperor Constantine, again, it is very well documented in history. And this we can find by just Googling. Just Google Emperor Constantine and read about him and his acts. Remember, in my videos, I just give you the appetite and the opportunity to study. Because if I give you everything, you will just sit back and just listen. But if you have the opportunity to read for yourself, then it internalizes you. So my aim mostly is to help you do Bible study. So when you're going to read Revelation 6, chapter 6, verse 3 and 4, and you go again and read the story of Emperor Constantine during this AD 100 to 313, you will see the conflict that is taking place. When another emperor rose or took the throne, there was a rush of the clergy to get him on the side of their peculiar tenets. So if someone came in, remember, like we say, we can say King George I, King George II. So if someone came in, let's say Constantine I, someone came in, the Christian people were very eager to go out and please this new ruler so that they continue enjoying things under his umbrella while he took the glory and not Christianity and not even God. This period was continual war and trouble. So in AD 100 to 313, there was war. Because if you didn't comply, then you were persecuted. The sword was all over the place. So there was the sword left, right, and people continue to disperse. And somehow God used this dispersion to bring the gospel to the people where these disciples landed. Because maybe without the dispersion or the persecution, these people wouldn't have moved to the places where they went to. So we are also going to talk about the seal 3 or the third seal. So this third seal is also going to be broken. And when it is broken, what are we going to see in the third seal? This we will see in another video. I just want to end here so that we do research, because this was an introduction. Remember, I have to introduce the study so that when you have gone and read, you can come now and compare. So we will continue from Revelation chapter 6, verse 5 and 6, where we find the third seal, and you will also find different color, not white, not red, but rather black. So we'll see what is black what is this blackness that took place between AD 313 to AD 538. Okay, thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you for watching even the later video. May you be blessed. May you be studious. Paul talks to the Thessalonians about the Bereans, and what comes out clear is that these people, when they heard the gospel, they just went out to compare if what is being said is like that or something was added. So I don't want to come out as someone who has maybe have a doubt, no, but that I'm saying so that you can go out and find for yourself. Does Revelation chapter 6, 1 to 4 talk about the first and second seal? Do we find red? Do we find white? White, we have no doubt, because Christ taught. What we find in the Bible is what is the pure Christian uh, gospel. So the gospel was pure, just as we find it in the Bible. But during the red period, there were things that were incorporated. So during this incorporation, we find that there was a conflict. There was conflict between the Christian and the heathen. So thank you so much again for watching. I know I've said thank you so many times. Uh, this is my first live stream, and I'm excited that you are able to come on board. May the Lord bless you. Keep tuned in for the next part.